welcome. I actually thought I was recording, so now I am on Facebook officially. You can find us on Facebook at Vibe-Talk. We are there, and I am live, ladies and gentlemen. Looking for the beginning of... Yeah, here it is, ladies and gentlemen. Hold on. It's an excellent book. I hope you all are enjoying it, as I am. And if you want to ask any questions, go ahead. And I'll be typing your answer, or the answers that you have, in the book. Thank you so much, Trish. And it's going to be 10. We're on chapter 10. All week, ladies and gentlemen, we're going to be doing this all week. So stay tuned with us. Yeah. Here we go. Thank you, Trish. Get back to the media.
Will the $710 driver stimulus funds really run?
Not that part. Not that part. Okay, you guys ready?
When we suggest to others that they may have an unresolved negative feeling towards some beloved member of their family, they could become defensive or offended and respond by not wanting to continue the conversation. The important thing to understand is that there is no blame in these situations. It just is. These people who influenced our early years usually did the best they knew how. As a child, when we established a particular perception, we usually had an incorrect reference point because we were too young to understand and sort out the true picture. Our own lack of maturity, our own lack of wisdom, produced the incorrect perception. Therefore, our perception was usually an illusion. Incorrect or not, that perception has been stored in our cells, in our DNA, covering over the memory of perfection in our original blueprint. These perceptions have been carried with us throughout our years, often creating enormous physical, emotional, or mental pain in some area of our life. Our mind has to draw some conclusions for the discomfort or the pain we feel and have felt at the time the core incident occurred. Consequently, whatever data was available in our subconscious from previous experiences for us to reference determined the belief we established, whether correct or incorrect. Then later, when similar incidents occurred in our lives, any old familiar feelings that were being resurrected responded once again by embracing the same incorrect perception, the same incorrect belief, thereby validating our illusion. Thus, a deeper and deeper endorsement of the discomfort was perpetrated subconsciously. Let us start with the factors described in the beginning of the book concerning our gestation and birth, and add to them the way we were treated by whomever was involved in our world as we grew up. Were we treated with love and acceptance, or did we experience physical, mental, or emotional abuse? Whatever happened to us, these experiences had a profound impact on our concept of self. If a child is abused, he's usually unable to express his feelings of fear, anger, or rage. So these feelings are stuffed inside of him, without a form of verbal expression. When feelings are continually stuffed inside, the child may lash out by being abusive to others, or he may be uncontrollable in different ways. He may become languid or non-communicative and withdrawn, or he may become ill. The illness at this point will often affect the immune system, especially if the child views the situation as being unalterable, hopeless, or feels there is no way out. Many children who come from an abusive background seem to always want to make things right for everyone. Their inner core has been so painfully violated that they want peace at all costs. They walk around in fear and trembling, hoping that they will never be the focal point of anyone's verbal or physical disapproval. A child's identity evolves around family members. In an abused child's pure intent to make things right for everyone around him as he's growing up, he finds himself taking care of others at the expense of his own feelings and needs. Consequently, the child has no identity of his own. This is what is known as codependency. More often than not, the child does not approve of himself because he feels somehow that it was his fault he was abused. He always worries about other people's feelings rather than his own. He continually tries to make things right for everyone else, regardless of what he wants. Because it's impossible for him to make things right for everyone else, he then views himself as incapable, unimportant, as a failure. Because of his inability to change things for the better for others, he particularly feels worthless. In his eyes, he is responsible for all of the problems, regardless of what they are. By always worrying about others and trying to meet everyone else's needs, the child shuts down his own feeling system to the point of not having any sense of who he is or where he is going. He thrives on constant outside approval. In fact, he needs it. When outside approval is not forthcoming, this compounds his disapproval of himself. Ironically, in reality, it's this disapproval of self that creates the lack of approval from others. The codependent stays in a catch-22 situation, cycling through the same scenario over and over again. So a person with these kinds of experiences will commonly end up a loner or go from one relationship to another, continually looking for and seeking approval. These people often become involved with abusive people, and when their relationships don't work out, they always feel responsible for its failure. This compounds the feeling of worthlessness, which is one of the most common codependent traits. Sooner or later, though, the erroneous programming with its resultant negative feelings, which have been trapped inside since childhood, those feelings that are in the cell memory at the core, finally come to the point where they have to be recognized and acknowledged in order to correct or alter the behavior patterns. If this never happens, the codependent is very miserable emotionally all his life. In quantum healing, Dr. Chopra states, "This core is where healing begins. To go there and learn to promote the healing response, you must get past all the grosser levels of the body, cells, tissues, organs, and systems, and arrive at the junction point between mind and matter, the point where consciousness actually starts to have an effect." Note the word consciousness. When a person is willing to be conscious, to recognize and own the negative feelings that have been buried alive, these feelings, these vibrations, can then be dramatically transformed by embracing positive opposite feelings. This in turn engenders a new and higher vibratory environment within that person. This now new, healthier, higher vibratory environment indicates a restructuring and reordering that begins the healing process. One classic example of this sad state of negative emotions happened to a lady I knew. Brenda was in her 40s. When I heard her story, I could not believe that any one person could have experienced so much emotional pain as a child and still be alive and functioning. After hearing her account of sexual abuse by her father and other male members of her family, we processed with the script many feelings that she had bravely buried, feelings that definitely needed a resolution and healing in her life. Sometimes it is necessary to process many feelings during one session. As in the case with Brenda, who lived in a different state than I, she expressed to me that she felt a definite emotional shift on the inside. Before we completed our initial time together, I later phoned Brenda to see how she was feeling. She indicated that the difference in her, the shift and the change she was experiencing, was much greater than she had ever anticipated. Although Brenda rarely confided in anyone, she'd always yearned for love and understanding from others at a deep level of her soul. Without having to reveal her abuse, her horrible emotional trauma as a girl, most of her life she had felt an underlying desire to explain to people what she had been through so that they would better understand her. Now that desire to justify herself and what had happened to her earlier in life was totally eliminated. She no longer felt the need to explain her hurt, her distrust of men, her guilt, or the shame that she had carried inside her for years. She continued to use the script on her own. In a short time she had made such progress that she felt a peaceful freedom and release she had never before experienced. If you haven't encountered an emotional crisis or health crisis in your life, and you identify with what you're reading, let me encourage you to take and make note of the feelings you may have stored and stuffed for years, thinking they are dead and buried. For example, have you forgiven your mother for letting your dad take advantage of her? And have you forgiven your dad for taking advantage of your mother? Have you forgiven your father for all the times he verbally humiliated you? Have you forgiven your sister for, as you perceive it, being prettier than you? Have you forgiven your brothers and sisters for not understanding you or picking on you? Or does the resentment go much deeper? Have you forgiven other family members for their wrong acts or actions as you perceive them? Have you forgiven your least favorite teacher in school for embarrassing you in front of the rest of the class when you were talking instead of listening? These kinds of negative feelings can be so embedded and at such great depth that they remain a subconscious, overwhelming, moving force in your life. Remember, these feelings are powerful. They're living energies. And the examples mentioned are very minor compared to some of the more serious anger, hate, and resentment that people are carrying around inside of them. Hate, anger, resentment, and desire for revenge are energies that can eat you alive. Tom was a client who was so filled with these feelings that he literally had a darkness about him. When he came into my office, he had so much negativity inside of him that he just spouted off, unleashing his anger and hate for almost 2 hours, blaming everyone he could for his problems. He was a very sick man, with all kinds of allergies and no physical energy whatsoever. Tom was in his early 40s, but seemed 20 years older. It was obvious to me why he was so ill. At this point in his life, however, he was so miserable that he was willing to do anything in order to feel better. Tom didn't really want to let go of his dark feelings. However, he seemed to thrive on them. He kept telling his wife that there was no way he was going to forgive people and things of the past. But his wife finally persuaded him to let his spirit help him change those feelings by going through the script. After about his second visit, Tom didn't appear so dark. He became more cheerful and amiable, and seemed to progressively improve. His pain and discomfort abated, and was no longer there to remind him of the purpose and importance of the script. When he no longer felt miserable, he quit using the script and started slipping back into his old patterns again. He had only scratched the surface of resolving his negative feelings at that point. What I didn't tell you is that, as a child, Tom seemed to be the brunt of his mother's frustrations. For no apparent reason, she would often beat and scream at him unmercifully. He was the oldest of 4, but was the only one who received this treatment. Imagine how that would have caused you to feel if this same thing happened to you. We never know what someone else has had to endure. However, no matter what you've been through, you only hurt yourself when you hang on to the negative feelings. And there is nothing you can do about the past. It's lost, it's gone forever. Your concern is with the now, with the present. It is your choice as to whether things of the past keep you in bondage or give you the key to open the door to freedom. At this writing, Tom is at a crossroads. He will be choosing whether to continue wallowing in his negativity or whether to lift his head up out of the mire and become more aware and more accountable for his feelings, taking whatever steps are necessary to change these poisonous, destructive, negative feelings to positive, productive feelings. Tom does have a choice. Having Tom's life touch mine served as an indelible reminder of how powerful hate, anger, resentment, and a desire for revenge are in bringing someone down, physically and emotionally, in coloring the glasses entirely dark that they see through. How sad it is, especially when underneath all that anger is a real gem with great potential. Even though all of these examples are just about one seemingly insignificant person at a time, when you compound their pain, their hurt, their hate, their fear, their sorrow, their anger, their guilt, their resentment, and their feelings of worthlessness, and their need for approval, then let it resonate with all the other people in the world who have these same kinds of feelings. You end up with millions or perhaps billions of miserable, unhappy, and hurting people. Even so, we have it within our power to do something about it. We can make a difference. How can we make a difference? We can start by creating a shift, making a change in ourselves. To some people, Colette's story may seem
As you come in, just read what my manager
here's an
has,
example of a girl struggling for her own identity,
co-host has put
for acceptance,
on the board, and just
for
answer.
approval, and for feelings
And thank
of
you for
self-worth.
joining.
Qualities that everyone would
What
like
state
to enjoy.
are you listening in from, Vortex?
Colette was a college-age client who constantly needed outside approval. Although she had not been labeled a codependent as such, she had a very strong codependent trait. Colette always needed outside approval to make her feel good about herself.
And you
to make
can
her
write in
feel
the chat
worthwhile.
box if you want to
She
say
had to be
something.
reassured constantly about the quality of her performance, whether it was her schoolwork, her cheerleading, her ability
Nice.
to
Good
attract
morning.
good-looking young men to her, or whatever. She was always seeking outside approval and acceptance. When we finally got right down to the root of this problem, we found that as a child of
My
5
co-host
years,
is writing what
Colette
we're
had
listening
been
to.
singing with a group of children at a program. She didn't know the words to the songs, so she just mouthed the songs. Afterward, one of her aunts came up to her and mentioned that her sister was singing so nicely, and what was the matter with her that she didn't know the words. The overwhelming feeling of disapproval and censure Colette felt from her aunt, whom she dearly loved, immediately caused her to establish a deep negative belief inside of herself that she couldn't express. But the belief, nevertheless, was internalized. This new belief caused her to feel that she must make amends for her unpreparedness forever after gain approval and acceptance in whatever she did. However, the real core of Colette's problem became apparent at a later session. She was a twin, and since birth, Colette had felt that her mother favored her twin over her. Naturally, her mother was deeply hurt when she realized Colette felt this way. Regardless, no matter what, Colette felt that she always needed to prove she was especially worthy of her mother's approval, as well as everyone else's.
Thank you for that.
And this is what incorrect perceptions do to us. Now armed with the realization of what she was feeling, Colette went through the script for the reason I so desperately want and need approval. After using the script for those particular feelings and some appendages to those same feelings, she reported to me that she no longer felt the anxiety she had for so many years of her life. She became much more peaceful and relaxed, and better able to flow with life. There were also some other significant improvements in her day-to-day activities. Colette realizes that other feelings and their resultant incorrect perceptions and beliefs need to be altered and conquered. So she continues to use this process to accomplish her goals. Most of us don't realize we're carrying all that stuff around with us. Stuff that determines our everyday decisions and actions. Stuff that has caused us to be dysfunctional. All of that stuff, which has been affecting us, has influenced us on a subconscious level. There is something else appropriate to mention here. If you were raised in a family with poor or inadequate communication skills, you undoubtedly went around pretending that everything was fine, but in reality, there was much awry and much hurting. Oh, how you longed for a healthy interchange of ideas and communication, sharing experiences and expressing feelings. Who could you talk to? Who could you tell your secrets to? Where could you go for release from the pain? Or did you think if you were quiet, the pain might go away? Or did you just turn your feelings off? A person can actually turn their feelings off so they won't feel the pain. And their reality or method of coping becomes one of non-participation, i.e., it happened to others but not me. What is really happening, however, is that those painful negative feelings and thoughts are getting stuffed deeper and deeper inside because there is no release, no outlet, and no resolution for them.
It's important.
How long can a person continue stuffing and storing before the container is full and there's no room left to stuff or store anymore? When the psyche is no longer able to endure further stuffing and non-resolution of the pain and the hurting, the personality of the hurting person is often driven to split, to literally become another personality, another identity. Then they can be in their own make-believe world, which is totally apart from the real one, rather than having to participate in their old painful world. If we remember that we were totally innocent bystanders as we were growing up, and that these unresolved negative feelings are on a subconscious level, it will help us to recognize and embrace the fact that there is no need for us to spend even one more second in the guilt or blame game. The perceptions from which we viewed our experiences were created and validated in our immature minds before we were able to establish a conscious awareness. At this point now, it is imperative for us to be willing to leave denial behind us, acknowledge our own truth, and wipe the slate clean of the negatives so that we can go about healing our hurting soul, rescuing our true self. Many books have been written about codependency and dysfunctional families. Adult children, as they're called, come from these dysfunctional families where children have been either abused physically, emotionally, or sexually. I have only touched on the subject here, but I would like to supply you with a list of feelings which cause the incorrect perceptions and subsequent beliefs embraced during childhood by children who come from these kinds of homes. These are the feelings which contribute to dysfunction, codependency, and or addictions. Judges self-harshly. Fears criticism and judgment, but critical and judgmental of others. Feels a sense of urgency. Impulsive, impatient. Seeks immediate rather than delayed gratification. Fears failure but sabotages own success. Fears disapproval and rejection, so creates
Absolutely,
characteristics
I'm glad you're
acceptable
aware.
to others. Fears commitment. Feels inadequate, low self-esteem. Sometimes compensates by appearing superior. Feels discovery of real self will cause rejection. Fears intimacy. Unable to form close, loving, intimate relationships. Fears loving and being loved. Fears dependency on anyone or anything, yet are dependent personalities. Fears abandonment, but continues to be involved with compulsive personalities in order to play out this fear. Frightened of angry people, afraid to trust due to lack of trust in self, afraid to reveal inner secrets for fear of rejection or disapproval, afraid of people and authority figures, feels different, separated from others due to own feelings which lead to depression, isolates self, assumes responsibility for others' feelings and behavior, grieves for the family they never had, unable to identify or ask for own wants and needs, denies them for fear they will not be met, feels guilty when standing up for self, therefore gives in to others, unable to feel or express true feelings as adults, because to feel at all has been very painful, in denial, builds up barriers to protect self from own insecurities, unable or don't know how to let go, relax,
Yes.
play, or have fun, criticizes and blames self and others, makes excuses for others' weaknesses, and has unreasonable expectation of self and others, tries to find own identity in doing things, but finds it difficult to accept honest praise, desperately wants to control, and yet overreacts to changes they can't control, continually seeks outside approval by doing, takes things literally, it's either right or wrong, black or white, takes self very seriously, distorted sense of responsibility, concerned more for others than self, keeps one from looking too closely at self and own problems,
I can't take
tends to
compliments
repeat
either.
relationship patterns, has a need to help and seeks people who are victims, are attracted by that weakness in love and friendship or relationships, doesn't know self or innate rights, doesn't realize it's all right to make mistakes, craves validation of self-worth from others, not received as child. Extremely loyal, even when loyalty is unjustified or even harmful. Guesses at what normal or appropriate is. Tends to be a perfectionist. Unable to trust loved ones, authority figures, or peers. If you find yourself identifying with any of the foregoing feelings or attitudes, changing these feelings and attitudes can be achieved by going through the script for them. Here's an example of how you can accomplish this. Spirit, please locate the origin of my feeling guilty when I stand up for myself. Take each and every level, area, and aspect of my being to this origin. Analyze and resolve it perfectly with God's truth. Come forward in time, healing every incident, based upon the origin, according to God's will, until I'm at the present, filled with light and truth. God's peace and love and forgiveness of myself for my incorrect perceptions. Forgiveness of every person, place, circumstance, and event which contributed to this feeling. With total forgiveness and unconditional love, I delete the old. I release it and let it go now, permanently. I feel perfectly within my rights when I stand up for myself. I feel confident that I am a worthwhile human being and I deserve to come to my own defense. I feel peace of mind when I do. Then finish the script on out. When we look at the negative feelings we buried as a child and participate in processing by using the script to resolve and heal those negative feelings, little by little, we will be relieved of feelings, emotions, and beliefs that contribute to codependency. Eventually, the memory of perfection in ourselves will be uncovered, reprogrammed, and brought into harmony with our perfect blueprint, with our true self. We can gain our independency, and after we have achieved our independence, we will victoriously experience the crowning touch. The crowning touch of rejuvenated, healthy, and rewarding interdependent relationships with all members of society.
Okay. So now we are going to be talking about this chapter. You say powerful, Trish? You say powerful?
Yes.
Yeah. So let's talk about this. What in this made you feel like, wow, that's me?
The first thing was the codependency.
Yes. Yeah.
That was the first thing. Because, I was more so looking for people and looking up to people because I know who I was. I was looking for myself at the time.
Mm-hmm.
And it's like what they said about me made me feel, it determined my mood of how I feel about myself. Like, if they're like, oh my goodness, you made me upset, I'm over here thinking, wow, what kind of person makes their friend upset? Like, how could I do that?
Right.
And it got worse, especially when they left, when they're like, we can't be friends anymore. It came crashing down even worse because I'm like, okay, I thought everything was good, and then it's like you don't understand, especially when they leave without explanation.
Mm-hmm.
You don't understand why it happened like that, and especially if you're codependent, you think it's like your fault. Everything happened because of you, and you're the reason why nobody likes you and nobody's around you, and like I lived with those thoughts for a very long time.
Perception of yourself and what you believe. For those of us who are feeling codependent, we want to get an understanding of what that codependency is. Because when you say that to people, codependent, it's like a word of taboo. But now we need to understand what it is. Powerfully enough, I really appreciate it. What you just said, Trish. Because that's helping us to see our true colors. And sometimes that's hard to do. We have a really great assignment, I'll tell you about it, to the audience. And keep in mind, you're all allowed to participate. If you're getting this at a pre-recording, go ahead and tell us your story. You want to be part of an audience? Just click on to our Vibe Talk page during these hours, 8:30 Eastern Time, AM, and 5:30 Western Time. Just click on to our live. So now, this codependency is an ability to be able to rely on other people, like Trish said, in order to maintain relationships. These relationships of a codependent person is almost always one-sided, as well as destructive, okay? So, codependency, what does it look like? You want to be able to recognize it. You want to be able to recognize it. I've realized in talking with people or being friends with people that people are codependents. So we all need people, right? We all need people. And as we need people, that's a natural thing that we go through, part of life. But when we, like Trish brought out, and thank you for that, they can have power over you to make you feel a certain way that is unfounded. You know, if they're not smiling, you say, they're not smiling because of me. And you're almost so dependent upon them, everything they do and say, you're going to take it as your own. Well, how do you get freedom from that? The codependent person is always the giver. They're always the giver. And why is that? Because a lot of times they feel worthless unless they're needed. You know anybody like that? That is a codependent person. The person on the other end of that relationship is going to be the taker. They're going to take whatever it is that you're giving out, no matter what it is. You can pour out your heart. They're going to take that in blood too. If, you know, and this is so important for ladies and gentlemen, okay? That means whatever you're going to give, whatever you're going to sacrifice, the other end of that spectrum is going to be the taker. While you're giving that relationship your all, you're giving it your all because You're dependent upon that. Something else I liked when she talked about the relationships. The codependent person almost always finds abusive relationships. What do you think about that, Trish?
I think that that's so true, because I've had a relationship before, and I went in there knowing that this person liked other people, but me being dependent of them saying, "Oh, you're oh my gosh, you're beautiful," and things like that. You make me happy. I went right into it knowing exactly what I was doing.
Mm-hmm.
And that was because it's hard to be alone when you're codependent. It's very hard. It's like the silence is an annoying loudness. It's noise. The silence is very loud.
I get that.
And do surround yourself with people that you know that aren't good with you.
I love it. Thank you. Excuse me for yawning. I'm not sleepy or bored. Just putting that out there. So let's get motivated on this Monday. Think about this as you're asked the questions. And by the way, ladies and gentlemen, I want you to answer the questions that she asked with a yes or no. If you want to go ahead and describe, you can. That's what makes it interactive, and we'll respond to it on our Talk About or Think About Thursday. So here are some signs. Do you recognize them? You feel like you need to save them from themselves. Always being a rescuer of other people when they won't save themselves from their own problems. You, as a codependent person, want to save them. You know, it's like throwing out a life extension to a swimmer who's about to drown. And they say, "No, thank you, I don't want that. I don't want that." But you say, "But you're about to drown, you're about to drown." And you keep trying to get them to get that life-sustaining jacket. They don't want it. Why? Because they don't see the signs until it's too late. So think about that. Now, when it comes to change, because we're all about change, you want to change. They don't want to change themselves. You want to do the changing. Now, a codependent person, when you're in a relationship, they will make you feel like if you do something to self-care, that you're selfish. Because why? They are takers, and they're expecting you to give 24/7. And if you do one thing for yourself, they make you feel like you're being selfish just because you bought yourself an ice cream. How about feelings? A lot of people, and I've been in since I've been doing Vibe Talk, I've listened to people, and one will finish the other sentence. Stop doing that. Let that person think for themselves, because maybe you thought they were going to say something and you finished the sentence for them. Stop that. In a relationship, each person has their own individuality. Sometimes you say, "I know what you were going to say." Be respectful enough to listen. to them. Let them gain independency, freedom, the keys to freedom to be their own minded person. When you're having difficulty in your relationship and you're having a hard time explaining how you feel, maybe in your relationship, because you're the giver, you're afraid maybe to say, I'm always giving 90% in the relationship and you give the other 10%. Just say that. How about feeling anxious when you don't hear from them? Now, we know in the course of life, if we haven't heard from our friends or our family members, here's what's going to happen. We're going to naturally feel like we care. We care for our loved ones when we know it's a pattern. We're not talking about that. That's healthy. Because we live in a world where people need to check up on their loved ones. Be motivated to do that. But now when you feel anxious, that it's so overwhelming that you didn't hear from them. Think about that. When your cup is full and you get to where you are abundantly overwhelmed with the thought of not hearing from them. Tricia explained about that being alone and how it sounds. Yeah, if you've ever experienced that. How many of you are having trouble being alone? You gotta always have somebody in your life. I used to be like that, where I always had to have a man in my life. And I'm doing really well with that, and I'm so thankful to our Creator for saving me from a lot of damage that I unknowingly caused to myself. That truth is there. So we're going to talk about these things. You want to make sure that you understand these things. Because we're going to go in depth into this and what that chapter was all about, to break it down. To break it down to you. How about not living your life to your full potential, but you may want to be in the space of your other half. You always want to be in that space. Or they in turn always want to be in your space. Spending time together with people to get to know them is important, but you both will need opportunity to be in your space. That's very important, to find your time and space. Not always healthy to be together every second of the day. It's not always happy. Situation. Catalina, good morning and welcome. When you have your own space but it doesn't feel like yours, right? You feel overly anxious, sadness. When you're in your space, you always want your partner there. Codependency. What about speaking up? Speaking up has been much of a problem for many people, a challenge, I should say. When you need something as a giver, you may believe that you can't speak up, you're afraid. Or you've been told that you are demanding too much. Even if you make the smallest request, you are shut down. communicate those feelings of your true colors. Notice I'm using the word true colors. When you talk about healthy boundaries, or your partner or anybody that you're in a relationship with, it could be your family members. This is in any relationship. Are you setting healthy boundaries? And when there's a need to talk about it, do you feel resentful when they may tell you that they need boundary? Do you respect their boundary? Because we have a lot of people that may not respect each other's boundary. It always goes back to maybe they're cheating, maybe they don't like me. The belief systems that we have within ourselves, when that's not the case, just set boundaries. Sometimes our behavior is irrational because we believe what? They don't like us, they don't love us, they don't want us around. But then there's some times where either or could be very manipulative to try to get that person to pull back in when the person clearly needs boundary. Good for the both of you. What about a relationship codependency? What do you think? Can it be saved? What do you think, Trish? Are you there? Can a relationship be saved? Can
I'm here.
Can a codependency relationship be saved? Can a relationship be saved? Because if you're in a codependent relationship, it can last forever. But do you really want to be in a codependent relationship? What do you think? Can it be saved?
I'm going off my personal experience.
No worries.
To be honest, I needed to separate myself from that person to, get away from the codependence. Mm-hmm. So, to me, I feel like space is needed before it can be saved, because how's that person going to learn how to deal with themselves outside of the other person blocking their space the entire time?
Yes. So realizing what the codependency is, not being in a bubble thinking that that's healthy. I know of such a person that is, like I said, codependent relationship. Codependent. And I oftentimes, when they speak up every 3 to 5 words is going to include that person's name. Screaming codependency. So you want to have a balance. And that's in all relationships. All relationships. I'm going to say that again. All relationships. So how do we fix it? We have to gain balance of ourselves. We have to, the Reader of Feelings book was saying, it is up to us, it is within our power to be able to see ourselves, to become aware of things in order to change them. Sometimes we get caught up in our emotions, and then we feel lost when something happens. Now, notice within yourself your changes. And maybe think about how you've changed versus how you used to be. Many people who are codependency will call that person every 5 seconds. How do you avoid that? Stop checking your phones to see if they've called. Maybe you are that person. Stop calling them like that. Re-examine your values. What are your core values? What is inside of yourself that makes you believe what you do believe? And we ask that you do this with honesty. What are the characteristics about you that you're going to think about within your life? Because whatever you think about yourself is what that relationship is going to be. Are you taking responsibility for yourself? Or are you taking more responsibility for the other person? How do you feel about yourself? How do you feel about your life and the goals that you have about your life? See, you may be looking for approval. We journal in here, and you want to also think about your relationships. How long do they last? Are you a person that goes from one person to the next? I can tell you a reveal about me. I always had to have a man in my life. Always had to have one, no problem. Always had to have one. But then when I began to feel good about myself, it wasn't the need to lessen it, it was a need to draw balance, because we all want to feel love. But I started asking the more important questions. What about me do I need to feel? What is this void? It's got to be greater than sex. It's got to be sustaining. It's got to be something substantial. Other than. It's got to be love. It's got to be based on trust, honesty. Do I want to be with this person? Not just in, these days we're calling it one-night stands. I don't even know what they call it now, because these people are meeting up on Instagram. I don't understand that whole thing. I don't. But what I'm here to talk about is relationships. How do we make them healthier? How can we gain knowledge? Gaining knowledge about ourselves is first and foremost. Because from ourselves, we're going to evaluate ourselves if we're going to do it honestly. I don't want anybody in here to be afraid to come to Vibe Talk, because it's not about being judgmental. It is about looking at ourselves for who we really are, and do we want to change something? Gain those keys to access your feelings and emotions. Set healthy boundaries. A codependent relationship can become healthy if you set boundaries. Remember how I said people need people? Well, that's still true, but it's how we need them. And never should a relationship be one-sided. Take responsibility for your actions. Stop blaming yourself for other people's behavior. Let them take their own actions. When the relationships become dangerous or abusive, ask yourself, what do I want to do about this? Because there's only two things you're going to do. You ready? Pull up your chair. In a dangerous relationship or an abusive relationship, you're going to, one, stay. And while staying, find excuses and rationalize to yourself and others that you should be in that relationship. Everybody got that? Go ahead, Trish.
I was going to say, that reminds me of a poem I read. It was like, it was a domestic violence relationship, and the female, she was like, he came home today, and he was upset, and he slapped me across the face, and other things, but she contradicted it with, but he still bought me flowers. And it kept talking about all the things he did, but he still bought her flowers. And at the end, it showed that she died. And I was like, I saw myself in that so much. I was like, not in a relationship, but like with like people in general in my circle, like when they do me wrong,
awareness,
like it feels like a hit. It feels like a punch in the face. But I'm like, but we're still friends though. Like that's exactly how it sounds. And then I'm just like, wow, am I really like this? Like I was asking myself questions like, did I really let this slide too many times? Like, is this really me? And I feel like when it comes down to you knowing that, asking yourself like, why am I here? Is this really worth it? When it comes down to like you're saying there has to be more than this. There's got to be something more than this. I feel like you should listen to that. You should listen to your soul, because your soul knows what you want. So
absolutely, the mirror of your soul. Wolf, good morning and welcome. Where are you listening in from as we talk about Motivational Monday? And we are discussing, after listening to a few minutes of audio, Georgia, welcome. We're talking about feelings. Feelings buried alive never die. So thank you for that, Trish. How many of you have ever played the game or when I was a kid, you should take a flower and you would say to the flower, you would pick the flower, he loves me not. The guys would do the same thing, she loves me not. So when Trish was talking about the slap across the face and the bringing flowers, that's kind of what you're doing. But at the same point, you are devaluing yourself, because a person who loves you is not going to physically abuse them. I want you guys to understand that. Any man or woman who says they love you, because men are abused too, some of them. It's not just the women, and I always say that. I want you to be awakened to awareness about this. Men can be just as abused. Now, when you are in an abusive relationship, on the last, he loves me or he loves me not, you should ask yourself, as you are doing that, not having to guess, but reevaluating yourself. That's not love. A man would cherish his own soul. Absolutely. Some of us are mentally abused. That's what we're talking about too. The physical, mental, social. We're talking about all that. Thank you so much for joining in the conversation. It's interactive. Thank you for that. So now, how much are you willing to put up with? You and you alone must answer that question. I want you to think about working on yourself. That's what we do here on Wednesday. When it is Wednesday Wellness, we have a really put together art project. That's working on yourself. That's what you're doing when you're doing the art project. So I want you to think about what you're willing to accept, what you know about yourself, what you're willing to accept, how much are you willing to put up with, and what you know about yourself answers those questions. You should not ask anybody else about that relationship. Trish, you were on point when you said about that mirror of the soul thing. You know in your soul. Sure, you can even call in. This is all interactive. Go ahead. We're going to listen as we accept our caller. Thank you, caller, for coming in. Good morning. Good morning.
Good morning. Yeah. So, I was in a relationship for a year and 3 months.
Mm-hmm.
Emotionally, mentally abusive.
You are the person was to you.
The person was doing it to me.
Okay, go ahead.
If I did something that they said that they liked, I was wrong. I did it wrong.
Mm-hmm.
But what ended it, they had put me so far down.
Mm-hmm. We're here for you. We hear you. If you need a minute, you take that minute. We're here to listen to you. And we thank you for calling.
August 12th, I drank. I got a hot bathtub. And I opened both wrists. I woke up a day later in the hospital.
I'm so glad that you're here. Go ahead.
She pushed me to the point that I didn't care if I lived or not.
Mm-hmm. I want to tell you something. I'm so glad that you're okay. I'm so glad that you're okay. You know what I'm even more proud of? That you were brave enough to call in to tell us that. Because just before you called, I said the men get abused too. I will always believe that, and I thank you, because you know what? There are so many people, men out there, that haven't came forth and said, hey, I'm being abused. I am being abused. And that takes a lot. How are you doing now? Is that relationship ended?
Yeah, it's been over since the 12th.
You said the 12th or a year?
Since the 12th of August.
Okay. How are you doing now?
Emotionally numb. I shut everybody out.
Okay. And so, yeah. What I want you to know also is Vibe Talk is here every day. We do one-on-ones. So if you're interested in having a Zoom one-on-one with me, where we're talking in private, that's to you. That's totally voluntarily. You don't have to pay for that, okay? And you can find me on Facebook. If you have a Facebook, Vibe-Talk is how you get me. If you want to set up an appointment, Wednesdays and Thursdays are my appointment dates. And it's all virtual. No matter where you are, you can do that at your discretion. The number for Vibe Talk line is 661-503-8993. We also take voicemail and texting. You can get a hold of us because that takes a lot for you to have gotten out of that relationship. To, everybody has a breaking point. And ladies and gentlemen, when you come here, I want you to realize that just because he's a man, it doesn't mean that he doesn't have any limit. That was his limit, and that is where he found his strength to get out. The irony of that is his strength to get out. I want you to recognize that you had strength to get out. I'm a suicide survivor. So don't look at that as a failure. That was something that was a breaking point for you, and you had strength enough to get out of it. And I'm glad that you survived that. That you recognize that. I want you to know that you can have access to helping yourself. The pain is the hardest part of having to talk about things. It's the pain that will come up. But you know what? After you have talked about those things, I want you to know how beautiful it can be. Your life is your survival guide. I'm so thankful for you.
It's funny that you say life, because that's what I have on both of my wrists.
Is life?
Life, and then things that I survived. I got the eyes in the life, or the semicolon.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
I choose life over death now.
I love it. Can you say that one more time for our audience to hear that?
I choose life over death.
That hit me hard. Because I want my audience to know that they too can do the same thing. Because you could have been gone and not able to tell your story. And I thank you for that. You represent strength. Never forget that. Never forget that. Goff, welcome. Thank you for your call. Is there anything else you want to say? I want to ask you, after you answer that, I want to ask you a question. Are you getting help right now for how you're feeling, or are you just dealing with it alone? Good morning, Goff.
Alone.
Okay. Would you like to get some help? Like, that you can find a place that you can talk to. Like I said before, Vibe Talking is that place. We're not doctors. Whatever you talk about in private is non-recorded. This is recorded. And this is hopefully going to help men in general to realize that we're not women just saying, oh, we're the abused one. Men are abused too. And that's really something how you came on just as we were talking about that. So if you want some help and you want to talk about it, you've got our information. We just want to know how you're doing, and we want you to know that you always have a place to come and talk. And your confidentiality is important to me, as I know it's important to you. Anything else you want to say?
If if I wrote a book about my life.
What'd you say?
I said I could write a book about my life.
Yeah. Yeah.
And
Good morning, Sam.
Full of tears about how my childhood went.
Yeah. I am so grateful that you called in. I'm so grateful, and I'm so grateful because your life. Good, Sam. How are you? We're on live. We're on a live call right now. We're talking about feelings. We want you to get motivated on just this other Monday, Motivational Monday. So you know where to find us. We're on Facebook, Instagram. Please find and follow us. I want to hear from you to see how you're doing, okay?
I'm sending a date in here.
Okay. Hey, Leonardo, how are you? Okay. So what is the 51709? What is that? What does that mean?
I found out
Leonardo.
2 weeks ago.
Uh-huh.
2 weeks ago. I'm a father, and that's the year she was born.
Oh, wow. Okay. All right. Well, that's great news. That's another reason to keep alive, isn't it? Trish, can you go over...
Gets me up in the morning.
I love it. Trish, can you go over where Leonardo is? Because he's over there by himself. Please, as you open your page. We're here. We see you. Great. That's wonderful news. So you get to interact with her.
And I almost didn't.
I know. Look at him. I feel your energy. I'm so very grateful for your energy. Don't you think for 1 minute that your story does not inspire someone. I want you to always use it as a sign of strength and life to you. Please and thank you. Please and thank you. Thank you, Leonardo. Yeah, you can. You sure can. You can ask a question. Anything else, Stoner Wolf, that you want to say?
Just call me Sam.
Sam. Anything else you want to say? We like it too, ladies and gentlemen.
It's been hard trying to wrap my head around one thing, so I keep it in my head.
I'm just glad you're still here. Reach out to us. Reach out to us. I'm going to answer in just a moment. Reach out to us. Okay? We do not talk out to our audience. We do not do that because we have sensitivity. Please and thank you if it's your first time. I want to say thank you, caller. And I want to reach out to you. All of Vibe Talk is done by contributions of conversation. We don't charge. Please understand that. So if you want to get with me on a virtual call, Wednesday and Thursday, you can text that number, you can call it, text it, we'll set up a time, okay?
Alright, I'm going to send something in the chat.
Alrighty. Thank you for your call. And take care of yourself. Remember, your life is valuable. And I'm so glad that you're here with us today. Thank you for your call. There was a question. there was a question that Goth asked. Thank you, Goth, for that. And Leonardo, are you still with us? Trish, is Leonardo still over there? Okay. Sam, I'm going to have to mute you. Because I just asked you not to talk. Okay, next is a removal. Okay, when I say don't talk out to our audience, don't do it. So, I want to get back to my listeners. Leonardo, are you still there? Trish, are you still over there? Can you check and see? Yeah, he's still there. Because I want to talk to him too. Here's a question Goth asked. Thank you, Goth. Do you think our emotions can become a problem? Yes. When do they become a problem? That's a good question, don't you think, Trish?
I think that's an excellent question.
That is an excellent question, Goth. I love your questions and your use of them. When do they become a problem? When you don't take care of them. Yes, Leonardo's still here. Trish, are you open up on both pages, baby?
Yes, I am.
Okay. Because we're on live right now. If you guys want to go over to live with our other guest, because we don't want him to be by himself, or you can stay right here. We are on Facebook Live. Go to Vibe Talk, click on the link, or just go, we're on live. Vibe-talk. That is a very excellent question. Your emotions become a problem when you don't talk about them. That is exactly why we're going over this book. They become a problem because, you know what we're learning from this book? Exactly its title. That our feelings, they don't go away. Our experienced emotions don't go away. They pile up. They pile up until we become so overwhelmed that we just can't take it anymore. That's when it becomes a problem for us if we don't deal with them. God, thank you for that question. I loved that question. That was a great question. So you can always ask questions. It's interactive. Sam, don't leave us, okay, please. There's two Sams on here. We want you to use your platform to ask such great questions. We want you to use your platform to be able to interact about our conversation. And we also want you to be respectful for other people that are here, because some people are not talkers. Some people have come in here for the very first time. Treat them like you would someone that you have been given responsibility to show around. Even if you know them from other podcasts, this is not the one that we energetically, are speaking out to the audience. We never know what we're dealing with. We're dealing with raw emotions here. And Leonardo, I want to talk to you for a moment. I was so appreciative of you coming to the art expressions. You hung in there with us. I am so proud of you. Everybody, I want you to know that on Wednesday Wellness, right during Vibe Talk, we're going to spend some time doing an art project all about wellness. Join us. Leonardo, did you have fun? Was it boring? Was it stupid? Tell us your truth. Trish, how did you feel about him? I was so proud of him.
I enjoyed his presence. Like, it was, I'm proud of him as well. Come again.
Yeah, we want you. We want you to come again. And all the projects, you guys are going to see how they're going to help you. I want to make sure that people are still here. Sam is here. Goth is here. We want you to become regular audience members because we know that Vibe Talk really does help. Okay, yay! There you are. Hi there. Trish, you're over there. Okay, everybody. So that's how we're going to do it on Wednesday. When you come in on Wednesday Wellness is going to include a fun art project. Last week we did butterflies. This week I'm not going to tell you until Tuesday's podcast what we're going to do. But it's going to be fun. And we're talking about our feelings. Such a great question that Goth asked. Such a beautiful question. Thank you for that, Goth. Trish, what were you going to say?
I was gonna say Goth's question remind me of what the book said about like adding on things like experiences in like a container.
Yeah.
Until like it doesn't fit anymore. The stuff that you're burying, like it doesn't fit in the container anymore.
Yeah.
And that can be very explosive because it starts spilling out. Your emotions start pouring out because your body can't hold them inside anymore. Your mind can't hold them inside anymore. So that's when emotions, that's when they can become a problem.
Thank you so much, Trish. I want to say, too, for Sam, who was by named Stoner Wolf, you really touched me. You made me cry. And they were tears of relief for you. Because if everybody would do that, what you did today, because you got out of that relationship. You got out of that relationship. But I want to tell you something. Your strength screamed loud and clear. I don't care what happened, because we all go through that. You got out. You got enough strength to get out. You are highlighted my color of the week. No, you didn't make me cry bad tears. You made me cry good tears. It was tears of relief, because we don't get a lot of men who say the things you said. They want to hide behind that. And you came with your true colors. You came with that. And that touched me. That's nothing to be ashamed of. We will cry in here, ladies and gentlemen. I want you to know that. We cry as much as we laugh. Do we not, Trish?
That's so true. Yes, we do.
We cry as much as we laugh in here. And I want you guys to have Vibe Talk as a place that you can come and feel safe. You may think at first I'm being mean because I'm saying don't talk out to the audience, because I want to treat you like it's my first day on the job, and I want to show you around, and I want to take care of your feelings, because they are your feelings. And that, I want you to feel safe in Vibe Talk. I want you to know when you come here, there's nobody that's going to judge you. There's nobody that's going to say, oh, look at that. I'm not going to permit it. And I always want you guys. So you don't have to apologize. Crying is a relief. We ask, you said you haven't cried, don't make me cry again. You come to the right place. I'm so proud of you, because you could have not been here, and that you have your child now. You recognize your life is important. Most of us don't get to do that. We don't get to value our life the way that you saw it. Thank you so much. Thank you. And that's what we want you guys to do. You can write in the chat box questions. You can write whatever you want related to this podcast. We want the conversations to continue to go. The next thing that we learned, for those of you who have missed the podcast, you're going to have the opportunity to be able to hear it again. So your story, Sam, it was recorded what you just told us. We're going to put it on the Facebook, and we want you to be able to enjoy that. We want you to be able to listen to it and let it be a strength. By the way, Trish, tell them where they can find us. We're going to talk about one last thing, and then we're going to wrap it up today. And our vibe. Go ahead, Trish. I'm sorry.
I was going to say, you can find us on Vibe Talk on Facebook. We have a direct connect, 661-503-8993, voicemail and text message available, and we also have a YouTube channel, Vibe Talk, all caps.
Yes. And before you leave today, don't forget to click like so you can find us. You can be on both platforms, or you can be on one or the other. We want to make our pages grow. Abusive relationships. How do you know if you're in an abusive relationship? Because not all abusive relationships are physical violence. Oh my goodness. I love your conversation. You are so welcome. Sam says, I got a second chance, and thank you for letting me talk. You can always talk in Vibe Talk in relations to that. We always want to keep you safe. That is my goal, and that is my co-host goal, to keep you safe. You are so welcome. We're here every day, guys. We're here every day, same time, this time. If you have missed us, you will always be able to find us. Just know that you're not alone. So, as we learn about abusive relationships, emotional abuse is common as well. It's harder to recognize it, though. But an abusive relationship, and you guys, we want to be able to pass on to you information that we've researched. An abusive relationship sometimes seems incredibly passionate and romantic at first, and then it gradually starts to dissipate into what? Cruelty. I think we heard that today. Manipulation. So stay tuned, stay aware. Young people who get in their relationship, think about it. Abusive behavior, look for those signs. If you see red flags, don't wait. Get help for that. Don't think you've got time, because maybe that's your last time. Think about it as, what would you do if you saw your sister or your mother in that type of a relationship? And you say, well, of course, that's my mother and my sister. I wouldn't let them be. Then I ask you to think about yourself in that way. I want you to encompass yourself in recognizing the signs. There is domestic violence, physical violence, child abuse, sexual assault. There's help for that. We will make sure that all of you have an outlet to reach out for all of those things I just mentioned. We're going to turn it over to Trish for Trish's treasures. That's her comments and her thoughts about today. Keep writing. Keep your comments coming. Aww, Goff, you're so welcome. I feel you. He says, love your podcast. Thank you a lot for guidance. You're so welcome a lot. All of you guys, and I really mean that. Keep your comments coming. This is your podcast built for you. Trish, go ahead with treasures. Comments?
Just know that there's a reason for your actions, and you always have to go to the root of yourself. From sometimes it begins 2 years ago, and most it begins from your childhood. It's never too late when it's the present. You can talk about it, whether it's to someone or to yourself, about your problems. Be aware and be honest. And for all the codependent people, it is possible to be independent and to live with yourself and to love yourself. Create boundaries for yourself, and that will teach you how to create boundaries with others.
Dying Wolf is adding to Trish's treasures. He says, don't hide your feelings just because you think it will hurt your partner. You are worth more than you will ever know. Thank you for that.
I love that.
I love it too. I love that. Thank you so much. Your conversations, ladies and gentlemen, add to the podcast. Your story is all about your feelings. Thank you for that. Trish, go ahead, because this is your time. And keep the comments coming, ladies and gentlemen, if you have them. Interact. Go ahead, Trish.
But yes, have boundaries. Boundaries do not mean that you don't care. It just means that at times I have to focus on me other than others. I have to take time for me. And the last question is, what have you learned or discovered about yourself today, and what was your experience like here today?
Yes, love that part. What states were here, Trish? What states were here today?
We had New York, Virginia, Georgia, South Carolina, and Palmdale, California.
Okay, if you did not put your state in, put your state in. If you just want to say California or the USA, that's fine too, but we are getting all over the map with this. I want to thank, while you guys are answering that question, don't go away yet, because you guys are good talkers. What did you learn about yourself during this podcast? That's what did you discover about yourself, and how was your experience here today? I need to say for me that, again, Sam, who was Stoner Wolf, I had to really catch my breath when he spoke. Because if you listen to him, you could tell the raw honesty. He didn't come in as this macho man that, oh, it couldn't happen to me because I'm a man and things like that. his manhood had to do with his strength. That's what I saw. Especially when he started talking about how when he had cut his wrist and then how as that healed, that part of him healed, he got the tattoo of life with the eyes on them. That was deep. Because no doubt, as I won't forget your experience, I don't want you to ever forget that. And that was a reminder of something that could have been very tragic for you, but yet you got the opportunity to live. And I'm so glad you're still here with us. So my feelings here were very emotional, as you see. As you see. I turn the question to you guys. Did you learn anything here today, guys? Goth, I know you did. And Sam, did you learn anything in here today? We always post these podcasts immediately after we're done. You're going to be able to hear yourself. And use it as a reminder, you guys, when you're feeling down and out, go back and listen to yourself. Sometimes we don't really listen to ourselves talk. We use our words, but when you go back and you listen, you start to think about how you inspire other people. God says, I learned to remain true about my feelings. Thank you for that. Sometimes it looks ugly, sometimes it looks fearful, other times it looks exhilarating, but most of all, to be able to share your feelings no matter how ugly it looks, it's freedom. You know, we always talk about what in here? We always talk about butterflies. Do you think that the caterpillar felt pretty? When I look at that little fuzzy green thing, or that green thing, I go, yuck. And then I see it turn black with the fuzziness. Oh, I'm scared of it. But then it begins to get a cocoon, and the butterflies are, wow, that's amazing. That's all of you, including myself. You are that beautiful butterfly that is taken by the wings, and you have soared to life. You've gotten through the ugly parts of your life. The ugly parts that you thought were so ugly and needed to be hidden. You've released yourself just like that butterfly. Trish, I turn my question to you, or your question. What did you discover about yourself in this podcast? And what was your feeling here?
I learned that expressing my feelings and having time to myself is not selfish. It's vital and it's important.
Mm-hmm.
And my experience here today was very emotional. Like, this chapter is like the most, like, this chapter related to me so much. It like brought out some memories that I'm like, okay, I'm still healing from some things. It made me realize that.
Mm-hmm.
And yeah, so very emotional today. And very inspiring because Stoner Wolf's story, it just made me happy. It inspired me because he got out of it. And, you know, it's amazing to hear that from someone that came from an abusive relationship.
Yeah, look at him. He says that his profile picture is where the tattoo is. I'm going to check it out. You're awesome. And Goth, keep those beautiful questions. He always has beautiful questions that's in relative to this. You all are awesome. Trish, if you could you go back and give them a link to the book? Because a lot of people don't like to read, and we want to be sensitive to the people that may not like to read that come and find this. Send them a link so they can follow along with the book. We love the audiobook. All this week, guys, I want to let you know that we're going to be considering the books on feelings. Can you do it on Facebook as well? Thank you. Goth Boy says, and also not to feel ashamed about it. We have the right to have feelings. Yes, baby. A lot of people don't know that. You can feel. Don't let anybody tell you how to feel. You hear me, you hear Miss Nisi ask you guys, how did that make you feel? I don't ever tell you how to feel, okay? I want to thank all of you, my co-host Trish, thank you so much. I want to thank Sam. Thank you for your call and your story. I want to thank our states that were here today. You guys' representation. And I want to thank Goth. Thank you so much. I enjoy your questions. I can't wait for you guys to join us again tomorrow. Stoner Wolf, what does he say, Trish?
He says, no matter how bad life gets, you choose your rock bottom.
I love it. That is so well said. And it is right here. You have my permission, ladies and gentlemen, to share these podcasts. You have my permission. You know, you didn't just fall upon these. I want you to understand that. You're here for a reason, just as your life is here with a purpose. You came here with a purpose today. I hope that you have been motivated. Tomorrow is Transformation Tuesday. What changes within yourself will you be making? Stay tuned and find out. Be right back here tomorrow. Goth says there's no coincidence. Absolutely right. I want to thank all of you for being my guest here. Thank you, thank you. Your stories touch the deepest part of me. Your stories are forever etched in my mind, and I can learn from you. Never take yourself for granted. Thank you for joining. I wish you more to be motivated each and every day of your life. Gaining access to you. Knowing yourself. And knowing your place value. Thank you again, ladies and gentlemen, as we get out of here. Thank you all so much. Thanks, everybody. See you tomorrow right back here.